Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everyone in the house. Welcome to our yet another day. Good evening, team. Nice, nice. Good to see you people bang on time. Okay, the time right now is 9:31 p.m. and we are starting with the third day. It's going to be a very valuable one today, people. Okay, it's going to be a very valuable one. Okay, Saurav, Subhash, Alok, Sagar, Anil, Omkar, Shubham. Nice, nice. Good to see all you people. Okay, guys, important thing is I want you people to take parallel actions as the sessions are progressing, because when you take actions then only you will be experiencing the difference in your life. Thoda sa come out of the student mentality where just sitting listening kind of mode, and you have to turn more into the action mode. Okay, and as part of yesterday's session there were some action items which came as part of it, people, and I want you people to really consider it, apply through it, and see the difference which you will feel. What was the action item? First of all, sit down for a couple of hours and read the job descriptions. Look whether whatever you're learning is the industry looking for that. Second, whatever more details you will find in the job description, you have to evaluate whether you really know all of that or you need to prepare still more. So this kind of analysis is a proper action item, and if you have not done that today, I would request that tomorrow sit for some time and do this analysis. You will definitely know where you are lacking and how much you need to learn or grow more into. Okay, it is very important, people. So understand that. Okay, so once you're done with that, then aage khud se roadmap will come automatically, guys. Okay, what more to learn and all of those things. Fine, now let's get into the day topic for today. Okay, let me take some water, people. Okay, so chalo, I guess today's session is going to be useful for anybody who wants to understand IT a bit more closely. Okay, so anybody who wants to know more about the IT, we are going to discuss about some use cases. Okay, real time. Many people have this question, right? Okay, hey, how does coding happen in the industry? Can I code or not code? And people say like Google से सब कुछ हो जाता है, so क्या होता है? What exactly happens with this Google and how to effectively use that? Today we are going to speak about all of these things. Okay, fine. And I think if you really understand today's session, many of your doubts are going to be cleared away. Okay, fine. Chalo, let's get started. Okay, we are going to discuss some real-time use cases, and I will be explaining you step by step how the thought process goes for building up those kind of use cases. So then you can evaluate it like, okay, so here we have to Google, here we need to know, here we need to interact with the team. You will understand it end to end. Okay, we are going to take one call, pretty connectivity kind of use case. Okay, fine. Okay, now let's take an example. So be with me all throughout. Understand first the use case. Second, understand like how we are building it up. Okay, with all the pieces connectivity. Okay, now the use case is something like this. Let's say you are trying to logging into any real-time website. Okay, it could be a banking application or any social media application, anything. Okay, it's a website. Okay, you're trying to login is having the username and password. Okay, now we will be building up a very decent use case here. Okay, now what is happening is, okay, as soon as the person passes username and password, okay, if it is valid, he moves to the second screen. This is the requirement. Okay, he moves to the second screen. He has two options to verify his identity, because nowadays, guys, anybody can share credentials to anybody, right? So if you have your Netflix credentials, you'll just give your credentials to somebody else. वो बेचारों का तो loss हो जाएगा, right? Amazon Prime and all that. One account say one paid customer, 100 people watching it. So then they have to build up use cases to restrict that. Okay, one of such case could be the OTP basis पे थोड़ा सा you can secure it up. Okay, so that even if password is somehow copied by somebody else, at least some protection is coming up. So let's say that is the use case that we are trying to build. You pass the username and password in the screen one. If you are a valid user, you come to the screen two where you have to verify your identity. Okay, now verifying the identity we are saying by two use cases. Okay, there are two ways by which a person can verify the identity. One, he says, okay, send me an OTP. Okay, one option is send me an OTP. The second option is validate via mobile phone. Okay, nothing but let's see, we are trying to complicate the use case so that you can even understand the technical depth involved in the journey. The second use case is going key, okay, there is going to be a mobile app which is going to be available installed by the customer in the phone. Nothing but if you are using banking, so we have so many apps, right? Axis Bank is there, SDFC app is there, SB apps are there. So like that, there is some app of the website. So they have desktop version also, they have website version also, right? So a app has to be created for your web application. We'll speak understand every of the piece, don't worry about it. Okay, so first understand the use case, understand the system, then we will get into the technical part of this behind the screen. So now the second option is, one option is OTP. Now what is OTP? If the user says, okay, okay, send OTP, so the phone number which is registered against that user account, automatically a random generated code will be given to this person account. And then basically once it reaches, there is the UI where you pass the OTP and you're able to get into the system, right? So this is one use case. Now the second option is, he says validate via phone. Okay, now what happens is, as soon as the user clicks on validate via phone, in your mobile there is an app installed, and the use case is somehow from behind the screen automatically a pop-up should come, a notification. Jesse guys, what happens is, whenever a WhatsApp message comes, a notification comes, right? Whenever some um, Facebook comment or something happens, notification comes. LinkedIn something happens, notification comes. Nothing but like that. Okay, okay, like that, in your app which is installed with your phone. Okay, when a notification is going to come which says, okay, somebody is trying to log in, please authorize it or deny the request. This is the requirement, this is business requirement. Now what will happen is, on the web browser, so understand the use case, you are going into the desktop application. Okay, in the desktop you have passed the URL www.xyz.com. You pass the username password, you went to the second two options, either send OTP or second is the mobile authentication. You click like, I want to verify my identity via my mobile. You just click on that on the browser, and automatically what you realize is, behind the screen a pop-up comes here, and in the phone there is a notification, do you want to approve or deny? And then when you open that app, there is two options there, either approve or deny. Now once you approve, now this is where the further use cases complicate. Once you approve, automatically in the web browser on the desktop, automatically in the web browser in the desktop, the user should be successfully logged in into the system. Understand, बहुत सारे use cases निकलेंगे. Now how to code it technically will become interesting. Okay, so one use case may will understand a lot basically. Okay, so now what happened is, the user in the web browser just said, I want to log in. That's it, he just clicked on this. But now the thing is happening is, it goes to the phone, the user authenticates it, and once the user authenticates it, automatically the UI component should take you further to the, maybe whatever is the after login, the system is going to be there something. So this is a end to end use case. Now how do we build up such a kind of system? Okay, how do we build up such a kind of system? What is the technicality involved, and who all people do what things to make this system work? Now let's understand from technical perspective. Okay, fine. So the product came, he said, this is the requirement. The client came, said, this is the requirement, build me this software. Okay, first of all, understand it. Okay, there is going to be a different role who is going to do mobile development. So don't worry, You can be like, hey, I'm not area of expertise of mobile. Okay, so my is a different zone. And guys, mobile maybe a b, there are like different devices have to be taken care, right? Android as well as iOS. It completely depends upon the market where you're going to. Android and iOS. There is going to be a different developer specifically for mobile who goes into specifics of this. If there is an Android app, that person says I can develop only Android. फिर iOS के लिए एक और develop लाना पड़ेगा, ठीक है? But nowadays in the market there are some other mobile frameworks also, like Flutter is there. One time you develop, it can run on any kind of devices. थोड़ा सा with tweaking, Android version is also possible, iOS version is also possible. So yeah, that's a separate area. So that person will be required for this app development and integration of approve, deny that use cases and those things. Okay, so fine. One component of this entire system is mobile functionality, which has to be built up to make this flow working. Okay, fine, done. The second piece is the entire UI portion. Username, password passing inside, you give an enter, the second page coming up, two options showing it, send OTP option and authenticate via mobile option, that page showing up. And when the send OTP option happens, one use case will flow different behavior, on the second a different behavior will flow. Okay, so nothing but UI development have to happen, app development has to happen. Now the actual heart, the server development has to happen to connect all of these systems together. Now when you go to server, now we are going to take some more complexity into this now. Okay, so in the server, there will be database for sure, but there will be lot of third party integrations. Now let's understand this thing for a moment. Okay, guys, what happens is, for many of the projects this will be the situation. Okay, you want to build up something. Now whatever we spoke here, okay, everything can be built by a technical team, end to end it can be built up by a technical team. But just imagine, okay, uh, it is going to take time, it might have bugs, we need to fix the bugs and then continue further. Okay, now the question comes, now this is a business decision which has to be taken care at some higher level in your team, and somebody will take a decision. Okay, in the market there is a third party provider who is selling some services. Rather than we developing this system, can we purchase it? Let's pay them some money, let's integrate their APIs and use it in the system. For many projects this is going to come as a system. Okay, nothing but देखो क्या होगा guys, if you start building up all of this thing end to end, lot of problems will be coming up, lot of problems will, it will take time, it will have bugs. But actually your business requirement is something else. Your business says, okay, log in a person and my actual thing is in the website. My actual funda is in the website, I want to develop that functionality that is specific to me. Why spend additional maybe 1 month for building this rest of the system? I don't want it. I am okay to pay to somebody and use the services. And now you have to integrate those APIs. So these kind of systems will be there. Okay, now while trying to work with it, okay, in one of my project in the past, we did a similar use case and we said, okay, there is a third party provider, अभी यहाँ पे evaluation करना पड़ेगा. So somehow we got to know a name that there is a third party provider called as IOation, IOVATION. There is a third party provider IOation which is providing these kind of services. Okay, for mobile authentication flow, they have services for mobile authentication flow. So what happened is, our company, okay, went to their company and said, hey, we want to integrate with your APIs. So our technical developers had a call with their technical developers where they gave us a demo of their system. Nothing but these are our APIs, you have to code it something like this. Okay, nothing but everything was REST endpoints. So nothing but in your Java, you, this is the endpoint you call, this is the request structure, this will happen as a response. So they explained us their system. This is complete IT life, guys, as a fresher, as a whatever, but eventually this is what we build up. Okay, so we went for that technical call with the third party company. They demoed us our entire their entire product. Okay, hey, these are the APIs, this is how you're supposed to integrate, and then they gave all of that in an integration document. A PDF file was also provided. So in the PDF file there was like, okay, all the APIs, what does it do, API is nothing but a third party endpoint. REST API, as we say, right? REST web services, REST endpoints. That's nothing but an API. So don't complicate it. It's a method which will be called from the outer world. It accepts some response. It requests. It gives some response back. Okay. Now the thing is, so they gave us demo. They gave us PDF. Now what happened is, now if you are a server developer of this project, you need to understand that APIs, how are they working. Second, you need to test the APIs, whatever they are saying, the way it is supposed to work, is it really working like that? Because they are also technical developer, man. Document mein kuch bhi denge, in real world if their APIs are not behaving like that, and if you code based on that assumption, things will not be working out. So nothing but you have to test their third party APIs. Okay. Now how do you test it, guys? So as a server developer, there are many tools available. Many of the people blindly use something called as Postman. You might have heard about a tool, Postman, which is nothing but it is for calling the third endpoints, calling APIs via Postman. It is very easily possible. So some of your team member will take up that responsibility. They will go to the Postman, they will read the documentation of the third party, set up those endpoints into their Postman, and one by one start calling it, and whatever the document is saying, they will try to see whether it's working like that or not. Okay. Now what happened is, now just understand, we are trying to now open up the technical use case in this entire system. Okay. Now now there are pieces. First is your server piece, second is this third party, next is the mobile app. Okay. So when we started discussing about the feature with the third party, they told us ki, hey, we have some feature key. Okay, you don't have to even develop the mobile app end to end with yourself. This authentication, yes, no, approval, we sell everything as a service. And then we were like, okay, explain us how it will work. What they said is, we have some created some ready-made libraries, and your mobile developer has to just integrate these libraries in the code. A lot of things will happen automatically. Okay. Now let's understand piece by piece how it will work. Okay. Now the first flow which we understood was, when the UI person clicks on I want to authenticate via mobile phone. Okay. Nothing but the UI is going to make a server call. Okay, we'll understand more things about it. Let's say it is a Spring Boot application. Okay, it's a Spring Boot application where you have given REST endpoint to the outer world, which is UI. So you have written an API, a method which is exposed to the outer world. The UI guy calls that API whenever the password username is successfully done. He calls that method. The user wants to authenticate via phone. We are like, okay, fine. Now, as soon as the user clicks on that, it comes to the server. Now you would have the server logic, right? Controller mein jayega, it will come to the service class. Now you will do some logging. Logging is very important. Like, okay, toss if user tried to authenticate via that, we just log it so that future mein there is a trace coming up. But now what is required is, understand, now my company, the server people, is going to integrate with a third party company, their APIs. Now what does the API says? Okay, whenever you want to authenticate via phone for setting mobile notification here, okay, you just call so and so endpoint with us. Okay. And the expectation is that user should already be registered, his phone will be registered with their system. That's a different use case, we are not taking that. Now focus on one particular use case. Somehow the mobile phone and the app is already going to be registered with them. That flow is different flow, let's not complicate it. They said you call one method, and whenever we receive that method, they themselves will be talking to the mobile app. A real world application, they themselves will be talking to the mobile app. A notification will come with approve or deny, and when the user clicks on approve, understand how the connectivity will work. When the user clicks on the approve, it does not tell our systems, matlab server walo ko nahi bolega. It will approve or deny. It will be talking because it's their library which even our developer has installed. Okay, what has happened, you have a developer which is Android wala person, they gave their own libraries, and they said you just install these libraries in your code and you develop just the basic application. So whenever we notify, approve will come. When the user clicks on the approve, their library code will execute, and that code is going to talk to their third party system. अपना सर्वर इधर बैठा है guys, we just made a API call. This third party made a notification to the app कि भाई approve or deny. The person acted, approve or deny. The request directly went to the third party. It did not tell us. Now the third party says, I am going to shoot you a notification again. Or here guys, there are terminologies, notifications or webhooks also people call it, or callbacks also people say. Nothing but just understand what has happened. Okay, many things are happening right now here. How to code it technically, that's the third question. Understand the design and the approach here. Approach number one, UI makes an API call to the server system. Step number two, server system makes the API call to the third party. Simply, it will call it, it will get some response. Oh, hey, we have sent the notification. Done. The thread is gone. Okay, we have sent the notification, gone. Now, the second thing what will happen is that third party server talks to the app because it is going to take time, right? The phone is not there with the customer. तो क्या करेगा customer? He will walk somewhere, he will get the phone, battery dead है, battery on करेगा, ये वो. It might take a few seconds of time or a minute of time also. So now till that time, the server is like, okay, waiting. Now what the model was, as soon as he approves, that goes to the third party. Now third party makes a API call to us. Nothing but we need to expose one API, which is even going to be called by the third party. Okay. And in that they will be telling, hey, your authentication request was approved or denied, and based on this approval or denial you have to act on the UI. If it is successfully approved, you log him successfully and take him into the system. It is failed or denied, you just say, hey, the login request is denied. This is how the end-to-end use case works. There are many things अभी यहाँ पे to discuss how to build this system technically. अभी दो तीन चीजें we have already spoken about. Okay, first is server guy is going to write an API. So how in IT the system works? Whenever such requirement comes, first the end-to-end design and the approach is finalized. Nothing but whatever we spoke so far, this is designing and approach finalization. Okay, we are going to make this API call, they will respond us back with a success message. What if their API call responds with a failure message? How should we respond back to the UI? And when we have made an API call to the third party and we are waiting on the phone, what should be visible on the UI? Everything is a use case, right? Everything has to be built up, right? So it might be like, okay, so UI call the server. I want to try a phone. Okay, authenticate via phone. Server talks to third party. Till that time, the UI is busy. Server talks to third party, trigger an OTP. Okay, to the phone, trigger a notification to the phone, and the third party responds back. Okay, we have sent the notification back. Now server responds back to the UI that okay, check your phone for notification. So automatically in the UI a message will be there, please authenticate via your mobile app. That is the end successful journey. Now this is one piece which has to be built up. If the third party call which you do responds with a failure, possible, right? Anything can happen. Third party system is down, or the his phone is not registered right now, or कुछ भी corrupt हो गया रहेगा. In that case, third party will say we cannot send a notification to his phone because of whatever reason. Then how the handling should be? You need to discuss that with the person who is giving the requirements. You need to understand that and you have to build it up. Like if it is not there, you just respond back, hey, right now we can our service is temporarily down, could you please try the OTP option? Maybe that's how you have to handle it, right? It's completely a business requirement. But these use cases of all success and the failure cases has to be considered and has to be built up while considering the end-to-end use cases. खाली positive करके नहीं बनता है. Just imagine, like it will be problem. Now one use case is clear. They call, you call, success failure comes back, you respond back. UI either shows you try another option which is OTP, or says okay, go to your phone and just try to continue further. This is done, one use case done. How do you do it technically? You know Spring, you know Spring Boot, you know how to write the core basic Java application which works like a web. You know how to expose APIs. Similar fundas will be applied here, writing a method which does this. Now second question will be, how do you integrate with the third party? Very simple है उसके लिए. There are so many libraries available in Spring or whatever, HTTP related libraries. Okay, if you are not aware of it, Okay, whether you are fresher or whether you are not, this is a real time system. If you cannot work on this, it's a problem. Okay, this is a real time system. So whether you are fresher or not, you have to work on the same use cases. Okay, that doesn't differentiate who you are. Okay, fine. Now coming back again, people here. Now just understand, okay, how the further things are going to be. API integration, how would you do API integration via your code? Okay, uh, there is one thing, yeah, this is RESTful web services. These are RESTful endpoints, REST endpoints. Okay, so you might find some libraries. If you're not aware, Abhi, right now again, you don't know how to call HTTP endpoints. So now you can use Google. Nahi aata hai? Use Google. How to call REST endpoints? Okay, how to call REST endpoints via Java code. You will get some example about that. Okay, REST endpoints via Java code. You will get some simple example. You will get some ready-made class names, which methods to invoke, what to do. वो सारा का सारा code will be there available. You just have to copy paste that code, add the Maven dependencies if you don't have it already, and then your basic code will be ready. And you have to take that code, but in that code, as it is, the code nahi chalega, right? It's only classes and methods which can be used for calling an HTTP endpoint. HTTP endpoint is nothing but API we are talking about. Okay, for calling the APIs, you just googled it, you got some code snippet. Okay, how can you call APIs? You got some ready made. You check for the Maven dependencies, you add those dependencies in your build application, you will get those jar files. And then with that, which endpoint you will call? The endpoint which is provided by third party, not what you got from Google, right? So you will call the third party endpoint. You will understand what the third party is expecting in request and what they are going to respond back to you. Okay, and then you have to build it up like that, write the code. Okay, okay, whenever it comes, you have to make this API call like this to the third party, and in response, it's simple. Okay, REST endpoints are very simple, it's not complicated at all. You just have to know the library to be used for calling, and yeah, Google say you will be able to find it out. Okay, how to call HTTP, you can Google it right now. How to invoke HTTP endpoints using Spring. You will get multiple snippets with libraries, with classes, ready-made predefined classes. Just plug it in and make your work go. Okay, fine. Now you call that third party. They will respond return. So by this way, the entire code is going to be written. Yeah, there are Jackson library. Many libraries are there. Many libraries. Okay. So now done. So once you get this kind of flow done, okay. Now the second part. Let's think about the second part. Those people have notified to the mobile app, they have done approve reject and the request goes there. Okay, back to the third party. Now the third party is calling the server system back again. The third party is calling the server system back again. Okay, guys, we'll take the questions later. Okay, everything is APIs. The real world works on APIs. Okay, fine. Keep the focus here. Okay, keep the focus here. Fine. Now let's talk about the second use case. The third party company is also going to invoke some API now, which you have to expose to them. Nothing but again, you will have some controller layer where you should write some API. Again, guys, when I say APIs, Spring Boot application, if you're aware of that, via that you can just build up APIs. It is something which is called by the outer world. Spring MVC may be APIs bante. Nothing but when you call, right, www.google.com/API/method name, nothing but controller name, something gets called, right? So that's an API call basically. Okay. Now, so when we do that kind of system, so now you have to give one endpoint or API. These are the terminologies you will listen in your interactions, in your discussions within the company. Okay, expose this API so that third party can invoke it for successful or failure processing of notification. Okay. Now these kind of use cases will come. So now you have to develop it. And again, a method has to be written, which will be called from again Postman, and then that particular thing should come into your system, and then usko process karna padega. We'll explore it more. Okay, now let's understand few more complex pieces here. Okay, these APIs or these methods which we are exposing to the outer world, nothing but anybody can invoke that, right? These methods which are exposed to the outer world, anybody can invoke that. So how do you ensure that these APIs are secured and only the right people are invoking these methods? One was UI calling to the server. How do you ensure that only the right person requested for this? And kaun se phone pe bhejna hai, right? Otherwise, I am trying to provide my username password and it notifies to your phone ki login. It should not work, right? There has to be everything should be tracked properly. Which user, which phone, which device, all of that is a proper mechanism, right? And similarly, third party is notifying to us, so we cannot expose. What if somebody from outer world makes that API call to your system of notifying the callback webhook, okay, calls yourself and says, hey, the person has validated himself, now get him logged in into the system. The world is filled with hackers. They will try to break the code, people. And in that case, these APIs can be invoked by a postman, by somebody else also. Understand, I'm trying to pick, you guys have doubts, right? How a real-time world works. This is one of a use case which works in a real-time environment, and it doesn't differentiate whether you're fresher, beginner, fake, genuine. This is what is the requirement, and this is what has to be built up. And I compare picked up many of the use cases here. Okay, server liya, ye liya, wo liya. Now we are talking about one more critical. How do you ensure security of your endpoint? Okay, guys, यहाँ पे भी mechanisms are there. If you would have heard about OAuth, okay, OAuth level security, OAuth, OAuth, OAuth level protocols are there, frameworks are there, where some auth tokens will be generated. These tokens will be valid for some XYZ amount of time. Then using these tokens, you can call the APIs and it will be very much secured. So if you're not aware of it, just Google it out. What is OAuth framework? How does this work? And how to integrate OAuth in your Java application? गूगल पे सब कुछ ये वाला मिल जाएगा. So like this, third party के लिए maybe you would expose a OAuth endpoint to them. Okay, so where there will be some, now once you know the OAuth framework, थोड़ा Google कर लो, you'll find it out. उसमें पता चलेगा, okay, there has to be some username passwords which those guys will provide. Accordingly, you have to generate a auth code and then give the auth code back to them. Then they use that auth code to call your actual API and then it is secured. Like these kind of systems, logics has to be built up. You have questions how real-time thing works, this is how it works. Okay, now once this is done, to just understand new term OAuth, how does it work, just take it up, write it down and think about it, Google it out, figure it out. This is how logic is. And then once the OAuth token is coming, with the token they call, so before you process the notification which came in, you will see whether the token is a valid token or not. If it is not a valid token, you don't process. If it is a valid token, then you have to consider, okay, if it is valid, what was the response by the user, accepted or rejected? If it accepted, give back to the UI, okay, hey, now he successfully logged in, take him to the next page. If it is not, then accordingly discard the process. Okay, this is how it works. So guys, simple system, right? So this is how it is. Connectivity, simple APIs. You have to expose some APIs, you have to call some APIs. And how do you do it in Java? Rest everything is your business logic. Rest everything is your business logic. Both logically, you just have to think how to call this, how to call that. Whatever you're not aware of technically, that will be helped via Google. You don't know how to call rest endpoints, Google will help you. You don't know how to integrate auth, Google will help you. That's it. Baki logic to you have to return. Okay, captcha is again like project requirements पे रहता है. If there is a captcha in your requirement, then captcha will come. It's not for every project, right? So for this requirement we did not discuss about captcha. अगर captcha होता तो again captcha के लिए there would be a different way of doing it. UI के ऊपर some captcha दिखाओ, there will be some regenerate thing which will come to the server. So everything is use case specific, people. So if your project has it, then you have to explore it. Let's say CAPTCHA. You don't know how to build up CAPTCHA, just Google how to do CAPTCHA implementation. But is CAPTCHA there for your project? So it completely depends upon the requirements which the project has. Fine. So far clear. Understand. Do some Spring related. Okay. See how APIs are developed, how REST endpoints are developed. Okay. Accordingly, you will know that with Spring Boot and all that, APIs can be developed. You can give it to the UI. You can call to the third parties. You can receive. You can process. Now, important things here. Okay. Few more. Many things. बहुत कुछ है. Let's understand it one by one. Okay. You have to have a database created. You will be like, okay, सब बातें तो हो रही है, बंदा logged in है. But guys, we need to have the information stored in our system. Database design has to be there. What will this database design include? First of all, okay, first of all, it will have the information about which user is trying to log in. Okay. Now, generally, what happens is whenever this user tries to log in, and when you are trying to call the third party for sending this OTP for or phone notification, you have to log an entry into the database. You have to log the entry into the database. Like Tosif tried to log in here because for audit purpose in future, your system should know all that. Then again, like you write an entry into the database, kid tried to log in here, fine, notification went, and when it is successfully logged in, you say the result was successful or failure. That kind of log tables will be created in your system. So there is a user table where the credentials will be validated. There is this another table where user login activities will be also tracked in the system. So this is how it is, and uske liye you just have to start adding very much logs into the system, and a proper database design where you can capture this, store this, and move it further. Okay, fine. So this is one use case. Now, second thing I would like to tell you guys. Okay, second thing I would like to tell you people, ki while writing APIs or methods which will be invoked by outer world, okay, REST endpoints or these kind of APIs, endpoints, all these different terminologies, it all talks about the same. Okay, there is a particular standard for it, people. Okay, there are few basic disciplines I would like to share. Okay, key a bit care about get, put, post, delete, why exactly these HTTP verbs are there, in which case to use a put, in which case to use a post, in which case to use a get. Try to apply that sense while you're trying to develop your APIs. Okay? देखो, technically it is possible. A post functionality can be done in a get method. Coding कर सकते हो, but it's wrong. Okay? Post has to be used for submission. Get has to be used for only retrieval. Basic discipline है. Technically you can mess it up. Coding allows, functionally banega application, but it is not the right application. So first recommendation is go read about all these methods, not theoretically, guys. Theoretically college बच्चों को भी आता है. We want genuine coding, right? So you need to know when to use get, when to use post, when to use to put, when to use a delete. Okay, explore it out. In which case, which API will be accessible via what HTTP method. That is one thing. Care about that. Don't blindly do whatever you want. Care about that part. Okay. Now the second important thing, whenever an API called, in response there is something called as HTTP status code. 200, 400s, 500s, right? That status code also has a meaning. So thoda sa care about that as well. Okay, how to write logic by which you can send proper status codes, this HTTP error codes, people, your HTTP status code back to the UI, so that you can write logic based on these status codes. Many times if there is a failure, you might just use a 400 or a 500 kind of messages. So just understand two important things whenever working with APIs. Understand how to use HTTP methods properly, get, put, post, delete, those kind of. Second thing is whatever is responded back, how to use the HTTP status code bolte हैं इसको. 200 success is there na, 200, 400, 500. The series, how to use that while you code. And guys, UI people will be expecting it accordingly. If 200 comes in the response, means it is successful, a different processing. If anything other than 200 comes, could be a failure. Or 400 series comes, 500 series, nothing but logic is going to be written based on that. So care about it. Okay. Now the second part, while you are defining these contracts, you have to care about error code and error messages also. Okay, nothing but what happens is in the response body. So what is happening is, just understand, you call the API method, right? So API call to ho gaya. Now the API is supposed to give some method response back, yes or no? Whenever you call a method, input parameters are there. There is a return type also. For customer, you have to give something back, right? So you have to give something back to the customer. Now, as part of that, As part of that, you have to prepare a proper response object and then send it back to the customer. Okay. Yeah, this is what handling exceptions, right? We are now talking about that part only. Okay. So the point is, in the server system, multiple things might have gone wrong. The user tried to provide a wrong password or something. You identify it's a wrong password, and as a response of that, you will create a response object which will have error code, error message, and then you would provide maybe some result, success or a failure. And based on success or a failure, then you will populate the error code, and then you will prepare the response object and you will give back. So like this, any possible response that can happen from the server, you need to handle that via your code. Okay. Just think about it back again. There is an API which is exposed. I know it is too much for a single day, but the point is this is real time world. So the session is going to be recorded. Think about it. Many first time terminologies might be coming, but this is what we do on a daily basis. This is how we code on a daily basis. So you need to be aware, and this is how the conversation communication will happen. Okay. Now your method is called. There could be multiple failure points in the method. Username is null, return this. Password is null, return this. Okay. Username password mismatch, return this. Okay. While doing something, if there is any kind of generic null pointer exception or anything like that, there will be a try catch catching it. It will catch it in the catch block. There is a handling part again of preparing a response object and returning back. Okay. Now this is what it is. Okay. Now this is what it is. So you have to handle it, respond back as well. Now, this is what it is, people. So, accordingly, creating the response object with proper structure of maybe having error code, error message, and a status, success and a failure. You need to handle it like that and then give it back. And nothing but every possibility which the method can return, all of that has to be integrated in the UI. Nothing but UI should cover each of those error codes, error messages, and has to be handled. Otherwise क्या हो जाएगा guys, blank page will come. UI में कुछ तो चल रहा है, अचानक से पेज पूरा crash हो गया और hang हो जाएगा, something like that. So everything has to be handled back. So this is what guys, care about these three things: HTTP method, get, put, post, those kind of error codes, HTTP status code 200, 400, 500, and error response object, how it should be. Okay. These three are very basic. For every project it will be there, regardless of technology. Java low, Python low, PHP low, .NET low, everywhere the API world is the same. The way to develop APIs will be different. The UI could be Angular, React, but the basic conventions of web world remains the same, what we are speaking today. Okay. Fine. So just apply that and you will be finding results in it. Okay. Now I think one use case is enough. Let's not overcomplicate it. Okay, I've just drawn a line. Ask questions. Okay, so whatever questions you feel like, ask it. We'll take questions for 15 minutes and I'll try to further explain few more pieces of the same flow or any confusions that you have. Let's speak about it. Okay, I know कि first day था, बहुत कुछ यहाँ वहाँ गया रहेगा, but yeah, just write it down, whatever questions. Okay. Can we develop our own payment transfer app like Paytm? Okay. Now, guys, there are many things. Okay. So, what is payment transfer? You need to integrate with the third party banks. Okay. Now, you are getting into now legalization, regularization. Okay. Nothing but why would a bank like Axis Bank or somebody else will give an authority for your app to integrate with it? They will expect you to abide by some licenses. Okay, for card processing there were some licenses. Okay, PCI compliance. If your system wants to do that, it should be PCI compliant system. Okay, nothing but similarly, you can build it up. You just have to abide by all of these standards. Nothing but what is Paytm? It is going to transfer money from X to Y kind of systems, right? So you just have to talk to whoever you want to integrate with. Let's say HDFC bank se integrate karna hai, or Axis Bank. So you have to go to their technical team, say that, hey, we are having this facility, we want to integrate with you, and then they will tell you the process. Okay, register like our customer like this. Are you certified to do all these things? Government ki approvals hai kya? That thing will happen at a high level. But once those things are clear, they will be like, okay, onboard into our system. They will create your account. They will give you some credentials. By these credentials, you can actually call their APIs. Once you get that credentials, there is nothing different. You build up your own app, You build up your own Paytm. Okay, in the Paytm, just use the credentials which HDFC Bank provided to you, and just call that, and then UI is what, I want to transfer 500 to my HDFC account. Simple stuff. Just use the integration contract which HDFC team shared with you, give the amount to them in the calls, and then further the flow will happen. So it will work. You just have to get it created with them. Once they provide you the live integration credentials, they will validate and provide. ऐसी हवा में नहीं देंगे. It's a banking system. Compromise कर सकते हो, right? And then it will go again here. Okay. Next, okay, Akshay. Which one is more powerful, developer or hacker? Point is, guys, every hacker has to be a developer. Okay, and hackers will be like more powerful, definitely, because their entire life they are trying to break the system which developers has break. And that's where many times on the floor there might be some discussion, like a developer try to think like a hacker who is trying to compromise with your system. That means don't just think about positive cases, think about negative cases, how the system can be hacked. Because once it is in production, people, if they try to breach in, it should not be a problem. So as a developer, you need to think of lot of negative cases of what can go wrong and accordingly protect your API. This is what it is. It's not about who is a power and all that, but you need to be aware of covering all the corner cases. This is how it will work. Okay, fine. Now moving on. Okay, catching exception using exception.print stack is a good practice or a bad practice? Okay, the point is, stack trace printing is definitely required. Okay, stack trace printing is definitely required, because in the logs it will put an entire trace of how what went wrong. Okay, but the thing is, it is useful for only logging. Behind the screen in the logs it is useful, but the thing is, customer ko you cannot give that stack trace, right? 500 aya because of these in these methods at so many places this happened. So you have to write exceptions or print stack trace, but that is only for later debugging purpose, so that the technical team can go to the log file, study that what went wrong and act on it. But it has to be handled. A proper response object should be created with an error message. We are encountering a technical difficulty. Please try again later, or contact our customer support. Some message, and that has to be given back to the UI. So it has to be handled in two manners. You have to write the print track trace because it will log it up in a proper manner, and but then handle the response object and give it back to the UI. In this manner it could happen. Okay, can you explain flow fastly? Subham, it's a very big flow. The session is going to be recorded, so you can go through the same process again because it will take a lot of time. Okay, you are talking to server talking to the third party company talking to the app approving back to the third party calling the API which you expose via OAuth token, validate karke you have to take it. Some IP whitelisting might also happen here, and then accordingly you process back to the UI. So this is the entire flow here. Okay, next, Santosh is saying, right now I'm working on a Java project. Okay, but my question is, can I switch to a Salesforce developer? Salesforce developer. Okay. Dekho guys, point is, there are a lot of dedicated tools available in the market. Okay, there are a lot of dedicated tools available. Salesforce is there. Okay, Pega is having its own product. MDM kind of products are there. But the thing is, it becomes very much specialized. Okay, if you have a Java domain, switching in the market, penetrating in the market, options will be more. If you become specific to one particular tool, you would be specialized in that particular tool. There is nothing bad in specialization, but that does not mean your over and all Java knowledge should dilute. Because क्या होते जाएगा guys, once you get into a Salesforce, future में जाके again a Salesforce developer, 3-4 years निकल गए और Java knowledge, and you will forget what's happening in the Spring Boot, and which is a ever evolving world. फिर market में क्या, you will just become a Salesforce developer. So if you are going for any specific tool, it is fine. Go, learn, work. That's okay. But don't make that tool itself as your career for like 5 years, 10 years. It will have consequences, because that might be like 10% of the market. Remaining 90% is not that tool. So that means your job openings are very narrowing down. So understand what is going to happen with your career. You can go there, but don't forget the basics, and try to again switch back to this. More zyada options rahenge guys, more companies you can float around. Okay. Next, what is Anil saying? We are using API gateway Zool proxy in microservices. Okay. is this API related to third party API or one of the feature of microservice? Okay, Dekho guys, what happens is, now there is a system inside when you talk about this microservices and Zool gateway and all that. Okay, Eureka is also one of the service, Zool is one of the service. There are multiple ways to accomplish it. Primarily what happens is, let's say within your server system, to those people who are aware of microservices, okay, within your server system there might be 10 services running, 10 microservices. Okay, how do you call these microservices which are there inside the system? For this common gateway has come up, Eureka or Zool kind of, which is the entry gate. Okay, and all this central system, all these microservices will be registered, and whenever somebody wants to call some other service, they go to the central system. Via that they call, they get the destination, and then they make an API call so that it works. Nothing but the 10 services registered to one common registry in microservices, and then if you want to talk to any other service, you go via this central place. This is how it works. Okay, now the question is, I'm reading the question back again. API gateway Zool in microservices, is this API related to third party or this is a feature of microservice? The point is, it's a, for accessing the microservice it is required. Okay, and the point is going to be, if you want to expose your APIs to the third party world, again they will be coming via this entry gate itself. Okay, so it is nothing but it's required for having a sufficient microservice based system, and it is the part of the system itself. For the microservice framework to work, it is generally considered as part of that. Okay, fine. Now moving on further. Yeah, Prince Tactics gives that. Okay, no, Zool is a internal part of microservices. Yeah, that is what it is, an internal part. Okay, so our REST application is acting like a Zool server. Okay, fine. So this is what it is. Team, any more questions you have? देखो guys, as part of today's session, just whatever I spoke, this is what are the discussions which will be happening in your companies. How to develop UI, how to develop server, how to call third party, how to receive third party, what is your HTTP method, what is the contract which you want to share, nothing but what is the request, what is the response, have you handled all the use cases, have you covered positive cases, negative cases, all the error handlings, validations on the UI, validations on the server, okay, and all of that. Have you logged the data into the database properly? Have you taken care of the authentication, like validate the user and then go ahead there? So all of these things are going to be discussed. Okay, fine. Serverless architecture. Dekho guys, sorry, I don't know much about serverless architecture because I have never worked about that platform. Okay, there are some discussions happening where we might go into this kind of a zone, but so far I've not worked on it, so I don't have much knowledge about the serverless architecture. Okay, ठीक है, anything more people? तो यहाँ पे फिर आगे जाते जाते guys, what happens is we need to start building up system from where you have to start thinking from infrastructure perspective. That is the next time enhancement which will go. From infrastructure perspective, you need to think about systems. For example, like with Docker and Kubernetes, I don't know whether you would have heard about it. Docker and Kubernetes is there in the market. What happens is automatically load handling is happening. You have one instance running which is serving the traffic. Okay, if the this instance reaches to 80% of its capacity, automatically the Kubernetes cluster will be there. It will spawn a new instance on which your service will be running, and then some traffic will be served by that instance, and when the work is done, that will be going off and then again back. Nothing but cost optimization. So you need to build application code which will work in this kind of a architecture also. So थोड़ा सा infrastructure को also you have to consider while coding it. Nothing but if you start using k, okay, every so if there are like three methods required, and if you start coding in a manner ki every time a method is called by the user, it should fall on the same instance, it should, too much ho jayega. Okay, but yahan pe we are talking about some sticky sessions, we are talking about stateless servers. Okay, we are talking about एक request can be processed via this instance, another request can be processed via that instance. These are separate set of use cases which has to be taken care of, but it will come. Okay, so some projects might already have it, so just know it, just let it consume in your brain. Okay, somewhere or the other these things will keep coming up. Okay, okay, how to use security in the login and registration time. Okay, Spring Boot microservices, nothing but some security plugins are available. Okay, so what happens is, okay, some annotations and all can be plugged in. The first thing is, okay, uh, whenever the user is passing the username and the password, so it would come, okay, directly to the server. So for the first time there is nothing, it's a empty, it's an open endpoint which anybody can call it. So there is no locking available, so you just call that API with the username password. That API goes to the server somewhere कहीं से जाके password को लेके आएगा, and then it will compare whether the username password is genuine. If it is genuine, then it will generate an internal token. This token will be put in the response and given back to the UI, and the token is going to be maintained at the server side as well. And now any next API coming to the system, okay, should have this mandatory token which is validated by the server. And then in the Spring Boot area, you have to have that interceptor layer developed, where every API will pass through this layer, and where you have to validate this incoming token. If the token is there, then only processes, else discard it. So this is how things are going to be done. Okay, so this is how the things will be. And mm, okay, so username password provided, you validate. There is one thing with regards to password, people. Okay, there is one thing with regards to password. uh, Passwords cannot be stored as plain text into the system. This is mandatory. As a fresher, don't mess up with this particular area. Okay, password cannot be stored as plain text. Okay, what does that mean? One way hashing needs to be applied for storing passwords. Okay, there MD5 kind of tool will be there, or SHA-5 will be there, SHA-1 will be there. One way hashing tools will be there. Okay, you take the incoming password. So let's say a user is trying to register. You are a user to the website. Just understand, this is again critical thing. Okay, you are a user to the system. You have passed, let's say your password is my password XYZ, whatever it is, plain text. Okay, you take this into the system. Okay, now there are algorithms available, MD5, okay, or SHA algorithms, which is one way hashing algorithms. You take this input, you hash it, you store it into the database. Guys, apart from the user, even the backend system should not know what the password is. This is very important. Apart from the user, like my password, I should use it. Why should even HDFC bank know what is my password? Somebody can just do it, right? Technical person can query and get my money out, right? So this is what, guys, take the password, don't log the password in the log files or the database as it is. Encrypt it, store it, don't log it anywhere. When the user again comes back, he would be passing the plain password in. Okay, usko वापस से hash करके you compare the hashes, and then if it matches, the user is there, otherwise it's not there. People have gone like in the UI itself, before passing to the server, they hash the password there itself, and then they provide it to the server, and then they get into the system. Okay, so nothing but on the internet भी नहीं दिखा, सर्वर वालों को भी पता नहीं है पासवर्ड क्या है. So these kind of systems are more secure system where password nobody knows it. So we have to build up something around that. ठीक है. Okay, next. Okay, so Rahul is like domain driven design. Okay, देखो, I did not specifically work on domain divine or driven designs and all. Okay, TDD पे काम किया है, टेस्ट ड्रिवन के ऊपर. ठीक है. Domain driven, I think it is more of object oriented kind of a design, but I did not get chance to work on that, Rahul. ठीक है, maybe कोई specific project में this approach might be used, but I am not much aware of it, man. ठीक है, so can't help you there. Fine. So देखो guys, even after spending 11 years in the industry, I did not come across a project where this was required. So that's what IT industry is. It just depends upon what projects you are exposed and what your friends are working and what communication you do with each other. Only that much knowledge will be available out of your own interest. If you're spending time to read more, explore more, you will start getting more and more knowledge out of all those things. Okay. Now next, need snippet unit testing and integration. फाइन, गूगल पे बहुत मिल जाएगा अक्षय. सो जस्ट गो अहेड, हाउ टू बिल्ड अप. बहुत कुछ है, देयर आर सो मेनी थिंग्स है. वी विल स्पीक अबाउट यूनिट टेस्टिंग इन सम अदर सेशन, but using test ng JUnit, you can write some code which can unit test each and every method. फिर उसमें code coverage लगा के you can see whether it's working properly or not. Unit testing is really required for long term maintenance part. Okay, so yeah, that's what it is. in real time cases, where can we use LDAP server? Okay, guys, nothing but देखो, what happens is this username and password which we said, right? So rather than saving the username and password into the database, we save it into a LDAP server. That's what is the difference. So when the request comes to you, you don't go to your database to validate whether the password is there or not. Rather, you integrate your application with the LDAP server. You give the credentials, ask whether the person is valid or not, and you will get some response back. And that's it. Only the password credentials maintenance will go somewhere else. You just have to integrate it. This is how it sets up. So your local database will not be having the credentials. It will be stored in the LDAP server. Your application goes there, connects valid, invalid, and accordingly responds back. If it is valid, you generate the token, and further the rest of the mechanism works out the same way. Okay. Without any classes, can someone become Java developer? Okay, देखो, as a fresher, right, you're not attending classes, you can become a Java developer. Okay, but the thing is, I feel practically the amount of time that you would be spending, okay, in classes and training, it will really give you nice core concepts, which is very tough to learn it by your own self, because Java बहुत open, guys. It has been like long years, a decade long. What, Java is too old. Okay, if there is somebody who is properly trained on Java, and if you are not trained, there is a big difference between two of you. There is a big difference between two of you. Okay, so that's where, if you have time, I would recommend thoda seek lo. The core knowledge will be more. Over a long run, it is going to be more useful for you. So guys, training, investing on yourself to learn more, upgrade more, practice more, never back down from such things. Okay, fine. Now moving. So कर सकते हो, कोडिंग तो कर सकते हो, that's not a problem, but for in डेप्थ knowledge I would prefer जाओ, train it out, थोड़ा सीख लोगे अच्छे से, and then you will be more confident as a person, and long term career में it will be helping, the strong foundation will be helping. ठीक है. Next, JWT token used for passport. Yes, people use JWT token, MD5, कुछ भी यूज होता है. ठीक है. नहीं नहीं, देखो, point is not JWT token used for passport. Okay, it is like whenever the username password is validated, we have to create a token. That token is a JWT token. You create a JWT token, and this token is given in the response, and for every request you ask the JWT token back. So that is what it is. Okay, fine. Next, need snippet for unit testing and integration in Spring Boot. Google it out, man. Okay, how to do it. It's like unit testing and all that. It's just available there. There is nothing like special about it. Whatever is the functional application need, you will be able to finding it based on that. Okay. Unable to find difference between, there is a like completely different concepts, Akshay. I think okay, you need to first know what is unit testing. Integration testing is like where the entire system is being tested. Unit testing is you just focus on your one particular method, and thus you mock all the third parties. You have to just mock everything other than your layer which you're testing have to be mocked. That is unit testing. Only your method is in focus. That's unit testing. Integration testing matlab your method will call 10 other methods, you need to call all of that, and then you will get it. And integration testing happens in a consolidated environment. Integration testing happens on an environment where you test the system end to end, where UI talks to server, to the database, to the third party, everything is there. For your unit testing, you don't need UI, you don't need third parties, you don't need database. You can mock everything and focus only on your method to see whether the logic is working. That is what is unit test. Okay, so you can mock the third parties, mock the database, mock everything else, focus on your logic. That is unit testing. And when you take it further to integration, that means on the server, no mocking, it's all real world, everything working properly functionally, and you have to do the entire testing out there. That's nothing but your integration testing will happen there. Okay. Okay, people, I think we have reached to the time, okay, 10:30, and the recording is going to be available. Just whatever you heard today, try to process it, try to think through it about it, and be a bit more logical in your approach towards the IT industry. Okay, there is nothing like hard and fast this rule itself. Everything can change, everything can differ from situation to situation. So be logical and make a valid decisions for yourself. Okay, because every project is different, every decisions could be different. So we are all talking about generic standards, but you have to customize it towards your project needs. Okay, so chalo, thank you everybody for your time, and see you guys tomorrow with another learning, and we'll get into more of some more process related angles, how end to end technical process happens in the IT industry. Nothing but there we will be speaking more about the requirement gathering, about the designing, about then unit testing will come there, about connecting to the environments, dev environment, QA environment, the release cycle, like end to end technical process we will be speaking out as part of tomorrow's session. Okay, so thank you everybody for your time. See you guys tomorrow and have a nice time till then. Bye bye, take care of yourself people. Thank you. Bye team.